Hello viewers, today we are going to be discussing the screen repair on an iPhone 4. In our case, we're going to actually be converting or customizing the phone screen to being replaced with a red screen. These would be considered aftermarket parts that go on the phone that just add a color edge to the front of the glass. Now, let's begin by introducing some of the tools and supplies you're going to be needing for this repair. First and foremost, we're going to be needing two kinds of knives. It would be our flathead knife. Next would be our needle nose X-Acto knife. Next would be our Torx screwdriver and our Phillips screwdriver. So, before we begin, we need to go ahead and shut off our unit. So by holding the top right button, we would enable to have the shut off screen turn on. So we would slide to power it off. Once the unit is off, we will begin with the repair. Several things I also like to show on the side. This is already up to you if you want to have something on the side to have your screws organized. What we have is a screw plate holder right here as shown. I have circles mapped out to where the screws actually belong inside of the phone. Flipping over our phone and removing the bottom two screws on the unit. Once we got our bottom two screws removed, we're going to gently slide the back cover upwards. I'm going to have this on the side. You could also use the back cover as a screw holder for the bottom two screws so we won't misplace them. Now, so in the very bottom portion of the phone is where the docking port is located. This is where the power input is on the phone. Next we have the L-shaped motherboard, which is the main logic board inside of the phone. If you pay attention to the left hand side of the phone that I'm pointing at, the L-shaped motherboard is the controller board which every component inside of the phone plugs into. And then right next to that we have our square battery. Now if you notice in the iPhone 4 models compared to the older 3G, 3GSs, the battery units are actually take up about 85% of the phone. So let's begin by removing some of these surface first layer screws. I like to take a look at the phone as a layered cake. So once we get some of these screws removed, if you notice we gently place them into the screw holder plate that we have here. Again, all of these screws would be removed using the Phillips screwdriver. Once we have all of these screws removed, next I will be removing several plates inside of the phone. I will be showing it to you in just a minute. So once we got all these surface screws removed, next we will be removing the plates. Taking a closer look, the plates are black metal flat surfaces that are removable. This would be considered one of the plates. Next, gently using your Phillips screwdriver, You want to tug on the corner of the plate that's located in the upper half of the phone. Once you tug on the corner a little bit, you'd remove the next plate. Gently place that on the screw holder plate. And next we're going to be removing the vibration motor. It's located in the top right corner of the phone. I'll be removing that in the top right corner. Alright, after we have removed the vibration motor in the top right corner, we will proceed by removing the actual flex connector cable for the battery. What it is, it's a square connection port right here that plugs into the main logic board. So we're going to be gently removing it, or with an upward motion, pulling the flex cable upwards for it to be disconnected. Next we would go to the very side of the lithium ion battery. We would use our flathead knife and very gently, being careful not to puncture the battery, with an upward motion, we're going to be removing the battery. That we can put aside. Now, our second layer of the actual phone would be the flex cables. These cables are the actual connector cables for the components inside of the phone. We're going to start off by removing the connector cable. So again, gently using your nail, you would lift up and remove the flex cable for the docking port. Then we would proceed to the upper portion of the phone. We would remove the LCD and the touch digitizer's cables from the board. The following three cables would be the top power button, the side volume and silence button, and the front camera. Those again, gently using your nail, you would, with an upward motion, pull up these cables. Got the three cables disconnected now. If you take a closer look, you would see the disconnected cables. The three right there. And lastly, we would take a look at the camera located in the corner of the phone, and gently, with an upward motion, remove the flex cable connector for that camera. The camera module we would actually put aside in our screw holder plate. Next, we would take a look at the bottom connector port where your speaker, microphone, and docking connection port is located. And we're going to gently pry up this plastic piece. We're going to gently pry up this plastic piece. Again, with an upward motion, remove it and put it aside. Now we're at the second layer of the phone. There's several screws that need to be removed for the final motherboard, the L-shaped motherboard we mentioned before. Before it gets removed, two screws need to be removed. One would be in the bottom left hand side. So we'd be taking out that Phillips screw. Once again, we place it in our screw holder plate. Next would be our motherboard's actual main screw that fastens it down. Ooh, very careful. Once again, we store that in our screw holder set. And now that we've got those two screws removed, we proceed by ejecting the actual SIM card tray that's inside of the phone. Now, the SIM card tray would need to be ejected by using just a simple paper clip. You'd use the edge of the paper clip to insert and eject the actual tray. There you go with the SIM card. Once again, we'll pull this out of the phone and place it in our screw holder plate. So So now that we've got all the flex cables disconnected and the first layer of screws removed, we would be removing our motherboard. So gently with one hand we'd hold the outer plate of the phone and lift and twist the motherboard. Once again, here is our L-shaped motherboard, which is the main logic board. Place that down on our table. Next, we're going to proceed by removing about 10 screws. These screws hold and fasten the front end of the phone, so it helps fasten the side frames of the front glass of the phone. So from the back end, take a look at the side edges. You have 3 running on the side, the same on the other end, 3 on this end, and then we've got 1 screw on each corner of the phone. So we begin by just gently loosening these screws, but being careful not to remove them. Once we've got our side 6 screws gently loosened, we proceed by removing the corner screws. And we store it in the side, not to lose track of where these screws belong. Extremely tiny screws. Now that we've got the corner screws, the 4 corner screws removed, and we've got the 6 side screws loosened, we'd want to take our phone into our hand, gently turn it, and now with our flat blade knife, we are going to gently pry on the edges in between the glass and the actual mid frame. So as you can see, I'm going to be inserting my knife right in between the outer digitizer glass and the mid frame. Going to gently twist. Gently twist to remove the digitizer screen. Basically, you would be prying the edges to remove the outer glass screen from the side mid-frame. Now that we've had the outer screen pried, we're going to gently remove the screen off of the edge. Going to be putting our screen aside. Next, we're going to be picking up our red conversion replacement screen, very similar to the one that we removed. We're going to be taking the color digitizer screen, and if you pay close attention to it, the 2 ribbon cables for the actual connection plate would be on the very top of the phone. These 2 connector ribbon cables are going to be tucked in to the very top port of the mid frame. If you pay close attention, you'll see that with the sideward motion, you'll be tucking in these 2 cables. Use your fingers to assist. Going to be tucking these 2 cables into the actual gap. See that the side plastic is nicely sitting on the side mid frame. And now we would continue by actually redoing the process that we had done in reverse steps. So once again, and our very final step would be to power on the unit. There we go, the infamous Apple.